we fought a lot with investors on, we tell them, look, our farmers can't read and write. Forget about SMSs, forget about WhatsApp groups, emails. Those are very off. Okay, so yes, anything we do with a lot of technology is for us as a business to help us move faster.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the VC4A Founder Series. This is a podcast where startup founders share their stories of resilience and answer questions about the challenges and opportunities encountered during their entrepreneurship journey. This series is a collection of conversations with founders highlighting the ingenuity required to thrive in uncertain markets, make it through high-friction situations, and pass crises. Each episode highlights a different founder and the unique set of challenges they are facing. My name is David Coleman. I am the growth lead at VC4A, and I will be your host. Thanks for joining us for the second part of our conversation with AgroCenta co-founder Michael Ocansey. Without further ado, let's continue from where we ended in part one.
So that's a question I wanted to go a little bit deeper, because yes, there's a high illiteracy in rural areas. And people are they understand farming, they understand the crop that they are producing, and but they don't necessarily understand business. Right. So there's a lot of education that you have to do with a very small team, limited resources, and you are often probably cash strapped because of their lack of the challenges they have managing their own money forces them to only accept, money in exchange for products immediately.
Yeah.
How are you working around this very complex challenge?
Yes. So in fact, so you see, that's what makes agriculture fun. Every day there's a different problem, so every day there's something to solve. So yes, it's actually been very hard trying to get farmers to understand that, hey, you have to do this as a business. So what we usually do is we just focus on one farmer, all right, who becomes a model farmer, right? So now this model farmer does everything that should be done properly in agriculture. So he uses certified seeds instead of grains from his previous harvest. He uses the right fertilizers. He does the planting on time, thinning out on time, applying fertilizers the right way instead of just throwing them on the field. He digs around the plant. So we take one farmer, let him do it properly, and then you just compare what you have done to what this guy has done. And it's worked in a few instances where they've seen one of them actually succeeding because he did something differently. They are now open to like, hey, how did you get all this? So usually when you plant 1 acre, you're supposed to get about between 5 to 8 bags of maize. But if you do it properly, you could get about 10 to 12. So if somebody is getting 12 bags of maize from his 1 acre, and you are getting 5 bags of maize from your 1 acre, definitely you'd want to know why this guy is getting 12 bags. So the model farmer approach has actually worked a bit, where you just focus on one farmer, resource him to do it properly, and then it becomes an example for other smallholder farmers. Yeah. But even that, still, it's sometimes hard. It's 4 million farmers in Ghana. So, well, if a handful say, no, we will not change, we can still keep expanding into other parts of Ghana. And we realize that in the eastern region, they are actually more serious with farming. The least we have seen is 5 acres in the eastern region. So they are more business oriented. And even when we first moved to eastern region, they were accepting payments by check. So we give them checks, they go to the rural bank. So they are already quite business oriented. So in those parts, it's not too hard. But in other parts where it's very rural, man, it's it's crazy.
I can hear your voice. Okay, so you're one of the companies that also has had quite a bit of success getting, securing funding. You yourself have been, the company has become a bit of a model in terms of how you present yourself and how the story that you tell. How has that evolved? How did that happen? Was it because you were so cash strapped you had to? You had to go knocking on every door, or what? What happened?
No, man. Yeah. So I think we learned our lessons with Swapaholics, I'd say. Swapaholics was actually in an incubator. Sorry, is it incubator accelerator in Dubai? So during that 4-month acceleration period, we actually learned a lot about how to properly run a business, right? So one of the things we learned was that documentation is very critical, very, very critical. So if you don't document from the beginning, when the company begins to get busy, nothing gets written down. You get so busy with running around that nobody can now write anything. So right from the beginning, we did a lot of documentation, right? So we have things that make it very easy for an investor to take you serious. We have a data room where if an investor says, I need this, we say, no, look, don't worry about the list. Take the URL to Dropbox. Everything you need is there, all right? And that impresses them. So making an investor's work so easy. And we learned that from, we got a funding from an investment from a German company. Man, you should have seen the due diligence list. The list was long. So that was a very good process for us to get it right. So they were very patient with us. And I think in order for you to get that far with funding, you also have to be doing your work. So we were actually doing the work on the ground. So what we post on LinkedIn is not something that is made up. It's actually something that has happened on the ground that we posted. So if an investor comes and says, take me to the field, you are confident to take him to the field because he's actually going to see something happening in the field. So we were doing the work. So it was quite easy for investors to see evidence of work being done. They go to the field, they see the work being done. They're like, okay, so it's not just something made up, they're actually working. So the second investment was the one that really helped us organize our data room because they came with very tall list. And for you to get money from a German, man, it means you have done something right. I've done something right. So I think we got 100K from the Germans also after 4 days, I think, of rigorous due diligence meetings going to the north. So that helped us really get organized. And then subsequent to that, we just documented everything that we had. So even if you come to the technology side now, one of our investors, Seed Stars, they were really, really impressed when he came with a tall list of technical questions, and I just gave him a URL. Look, go there. Everything you need technical is all documented there, right? So our processes, our tools, onboarding a new developer, all those things, like our style guide, everything. And in telling our story, we are quite consistent because we are both, my co-founder and myself, we are both involved almost at the same time. So we are not going to say different things because we are actually there when it's happening, right? So it's always the same consistent story. We are both aware of everything that's going on. He's aware of everything going on in technology, even though that's not his domain. I'm also aware of everything happening with investments, fundraising. So if he's not in the office and an investor walks in, I should be able to answer all questions that the way he would have answered if you were there. So you don't have to isolate yourself from a department where you are not part of. You have to know everything happening in the company. So that has also helped because if you are fumbling as a co-founder, when an investor is asking you questions like, man, these guys are not serious. So yes, that's one thing that has, those are some of the things that have helped us to actually project ourselves differently.
Okay. Well, so as a leadership team, how has COVID affected, the company? Has anything changed?
Not much has changed except that now the trips have been reduced. Much to our disappointment, we wish we could travel more often, but now the trips have been reduced. When it was quite serious, the development, the whole team dispersed. Everybody was working from home. Are we frozen? Okay, everybody was working from home, and because of the tools we've put in place from the beginning, running the corporate office is pretty much easy. So everything is integrated. We have Slack, we have Asana for product management, we have Google Docs for functional specifications, technical specifications. So everything is pretty much, even though we're sitting in the same office, everything was already wired up to work as if we were a remote team. So once COVID hit, that wasn't really a problem. But then the operations was where we had to halt a bit because, well, you're on lockdown, so there's not really much you can do. Now that we've been released, the farmers have gone back to planting, and we've done a few visits in the past month. So not much has changed. But then, even though not much has changed, we have learned that we should actually put a tool in place to be able to sort of communicate more effectively with smallholder farmers via voice. So we are building, and we got a grant for this from GSMA recently to be able to build. It's called Sentinel. So Sentinel, like I said, our farmers don't read and write, so you can't send them a text message. So we're going to build a voice platform where they can actually just pick the phone and listen to tips, advisory services. So that's what we're working on now. Hopefully we should be done in a few months with that. So COVID has taught us to take communication to a different angle with smallholder farmers. Assuming you are not there, you can't be there. How do you communicate? So that is what we are doing now. Yeah.
Nice. But okay, now looking towards the future, what are your ambitions? Where are you taking AgroCenta?
Man, you should see our ambitions list, man. It's yeah. So we, like I said, it's 4 million farmers in Ghana. We only have 50,000 out of 4 million. So you can imagine we are looking to get into the millions as far as reaching farmers is concerned. Now, what this means is more farmers would now be exposed to having access to finance. More farmers will be able to now sell at fair market prices. So more farmers' lives will be improved over time. And once we are able to do that successfully, West Africa has quite similar problems in terms of agriculture. Especially in the Francophone countries, they don't really have access to a lot of the technologies we enjoy in the Anglophone countries. I remember when we had 4G on MTN, I went to one of these Francophone countries and they were so happy about 3G. I was like, man, we left 3G several years ago. Yeah, so they're not too up to date with technology. So we want to make a footprint in one Francophone country at least. And if we're able to get it right in a French-speaking country in Ghana, I think there's really nowhere in West Africa we can't go. So that's some of our plans. We also want to sort of enter processing, not just trading. We want to eventually go into processing commodities as well. So it's a lot of dreams, man. It's
yeah. And so how are you? I mean, you've done pretty well with a relatively small core team so far, but how's this going to work internally? Let's look internally for a bit. How do you manage to do so much with a very small core team? Or is it because you've got a very small core team that you're able to do so much? I don't know,
Yes, so it's actually the second part of your statement. It's because we have a small team that we're actually able to do so much. So no one is confused about what they have to do. It's very clear that if this is not done, it's you, because it's actually all yours to do. So we sort of try to keep a very lean team, especially also, I think we've seen examples of companies in the past who've raised funds and then suddenly just blew up into hiring, right? And I think these serve as examples for us to not tread those paths. If you don't need the hire, you don't go for it. If we need a CFO, definitely we'll go for a CFO because his role makes sense. We need to raise more funds in future. Now, that's a critical role for fundraising. But then if I have a warehouse manager and an operations manager, where do you tell the difference between a warehouse manager and an operations manager? Something like that, right? So can't the warehouse manager perform the operations role? Okay, so if that can happen, yes, so let him do it. So we won't have a warehouse manager and an operations manager just because we have so much money to blow on salaries. So these other examples we have seen on the continent are things we want to avoid. So if the hire is very critical, and the same applies to the technology team, I'm still coding, even though I can decide that, hey, let me just hire 2 extra hands and then I'll just relax. But no, if I can still do the work and combine it with some operations on the field, why not? Let me just spare getting 2 additional developers and then do the work myself until I get to the point where, okay, now I'm too busy to code. Then, yes, it makes sense to bring on 2 additional hands. But whilst I can, I just won't bring 2 developers because we can pay them. No, we won't do that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's very interesting because it sounds, for most companies, I believe that proximity to your audience, to your customers, can be a superpower, right? And it seems like you guys have really used that like to the max. You talk to your farmers all the time. You go to them. You don't have meetings in your office in Accra.
Yeah.
What are some of these? What are some of the how can I call it? What are the unique advantages, or what has made you guys successful? What are some of those things?
Yes. Well, I don't know if we are successful yet, but we are better than somebody. So let me just accept that. Yes. I think one of the things that have made us get to where we are now is the fact that we are very much involved in the business, Francis and myself. And for example, you were talking about proximity to the customers gives you an advantage. And with agriculture, especially in the cultural settings of Ghana, it makes so much, it means so much to a farmer if the boss comes to him to the farm, all right? Not in a V8, but maybe on a motorbike or something. It means so much to them, okay? So if you are able to get to the level of the farmer, and until recently, they didn't even know Francis and myself were the ones who owned the company. They felt you had been sent from Accra to come and supervise something. All right. So when they got to know we were the owners of the business, they were so shocked because like they couldn't believe the owners of the business have actually come to the farm, like, to get their feet dirty. So that kind of relationship with the smallholder farmers and even with our agents, like, we all flow so well. That relationship has helped us to actually, anybody can tell anybody anything. Like nobody has to, we are very informal. Okay, so the chain of command is really not there. Francis is the CEO, but yes, he's sitting in the same office with you. I'm actually on the same desk with my developers, right? So you can just talk across each other. You don't need to send me an email. If you'll be late, just send me a text message. Nothing formal, right? So relationship one has been one of the key strengths that has made us, and everybody is willing, like happy to work. If somebody is coming to work in the morning, they're happy that, oh, I'm going to work at AgroCenta, as opposed to if I was working somewhere like, man, not today too. And so that's one of the things. And also I think just being very methodical about doing things properly. Like there has been this notion that African startups are not world class. We want to break that notion, right? Like we can be world class. We are actually world class. Okay.
You're close to your customers. You seem to have a flat organization. So the hierarchy, which is kind of contradictory to the way typically businesses are run in our part of the world. But at the same time, too, you're very culturally aware, because you know how your customers want to be treated and how you can make them feel special, right? Yeah. So having learned all of this, having been through this whole journey twice now, right? This is the second.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's about 5. For Francis, it's 2.
Okay. So what would your advice be to young entrepreneurs who are maybe at an earlier stage of starting a business? What would you tell them? What's your advice?
Yes, my advice to young entrepreneurs, it's a few things. One, there's a lot of, when you begin to get a little bit recognition, it's very easy to just ride the hype and forget entirely about the work, right? So a few startups win an award. It's all over on this news network, and then they get so excited that they are all over high-ranking websites that they forget work has to be done. So enjoy the hype for a day or two, and then just get back to work, which is what we always do. We win an award. It's on the websites. We put a story on our website, and that's it. The next thing you see, a picture on LinkedIn from the farm with us in the field. So we don't really focus too much on the recognition. It's nice, but then, and I think that is why we keep winning awards, because we are doing the work, right? So for young entrepreneurs coming up, you should actually be doing the work and look for something that is a need. Don't dream of something you think is a solution to a problem. Actually, verify that the problem exists, and as much as possible, bring out a solution to solve the need. And in solving the need, a lot of the time we are sort of pressured by things we see in Western countries, in Silicon Valley, that, okay, it has to be a lot of tech, a lot of tech, a lot of tech, a lot of tech. They don't understand our customers like we do, right? So like I said, we have tech, but even the farmer never knows anything about the tech, all right? So the fact that Silicon Valley is doing wild things with technology doesn't mean that your solution has to have so much technology that it's scary. Okay, so you have to have relevant technology in your solutions, right? So, for example, now in our warehouses, okay, if we are taking stock of commodities, somebody carries the commodity on his shoulder from the truck, brings it into the warehouse, and somebody counts. Now, what we are thinking about is, how can we automate something like this, where you have a sensor, somebody still carries the commodity on his shoulder, but when he passes in front of the sensor, there's an automatic count. So you eliminate somebody now physically have to count the commodities. Now that is relevant technology to enhance your operations, okay? And this has nothing to do with the farmer. It's just to enhance our operations as AgroCenta. So in building products, just think about what is relevant to my customer or to my end user, and don't get pressured by Silicon Valley, all right? So don't get pressured also by investors. Investors want to see wow things. But if it's wow and my customers can't even use it, what's the point, right? So we fought a lot with investors on, we tell them, look, our farmers can't read and write. So forget about SMSs, forget about WhatsApp groups, emails. Those are very off, okay? So yes, anything we do with a lot of technology is for us as a business to help us move faster. But then on the field, it's very, very minimal technology. So they should stay focused. They should use relevant technology. They shouldn't ride the hype too much. And I think they should push a lot of hard work. They shouldn't also, when they begin to make money, start hiring crazily. They should still try to keep things lean. And I think that would make it better. Yeah.
Wow. Very interesting feedback and very interesting advice that you have. And especially coming from a CTO, I think that's very, very cool. How many CTOs will you hear say, go down with the technology?
I know.
But I like it. I think it's very interesting because it means you really understand, you take the time to really understand the kind of solutions that you actually need to make.
Yeah.
You're not in a toy factory just making toys for your own joy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
You know who it's for.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been awesome, Michael. I really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a lot. Thanks for being on the show.
No problem.
Yeah, and I hope we get to have you back again soon. We'll be watching out for you. And say hi to Francis.
Yeah, I tell him.
Take care.
So we're looking forward to seeing you in Ghana soon.
Thanks for joining us today. If you're a startup founder looking for practical tips, check out the Startup Academy or connect directly with industry-leading experts through the mentorship marketplace. Be sure to keep an eye out for new programs and opportunities we make available as VC4A, or boost your capital raising efforts by registering a fundraising campaign request. Our services are free for entrepreneurs, so be sure to sign up at vc4a.com. Subscribe to our podcast and join us again next time. Till then, work smart and stay safe.